Hi everyone, this is your last lesson of the course. It's the second major lesson. It's going to cover our last topic, which is bonds. Okay, so what I want to start out with is from our last lesson. Remember, there were three options for bonds. Okay, so the market rate could equal the bond rate. So that bond would be sold at face value. So in other words, if you bought a bond for $1,000, it would be sold for $1,000. If the market rate was greater than the bond rate, the bond would be sold at a discount, and that's because you could earn more money, theoretically, in the market than you would on your bond. Okay, so it would be sold for below face value. So again, using the $1,000 bond as an example, it might sell for something like $950. Similarly, if the market rate is less than the bond rate, that means that that bond is very advantageous towards you. Okay, you might actually want it over putting your money in the market because you'll get a higher rate. So it'll be sold at a premium. So something like $1,050 instead of the face value of $1,000. Okay, so it'll be sold for more because you actually are gaining more than the market rate. So we did a few examples last lesson, and it was easy to see based on the two rates, the market rate and the bond rate, whether it should be sold at a premium or a discount. So what happens is you might think, what happens to that premium or discount, right? Because the face value is worth $1,000. And what we do is you can develop a bond schedule. So it shows how paying, or in some cases not paying, in the version of a discount, how that amount that's different than the face value. So in this case, how this $50 less than the face value, or in this case, the $50 more than the face value, is actually amortized over the length of the bond. So where is that money kind of distributed? So a bond schedule, it's very similar to what we did for an amortization schedule, okay, except there's a few more components. So this is an example of one. We're going to do two examples after this where I show you how to calculate each of these. You'll see it's a long bond schedule. So I'm not going to show you every single one of them in the first case, all six payments. I'm going to show you how to do the first two and how they accumulate, and then I'm keeping the actual solution to these on the slides on the next slide. But going back to what's in the schedule, so the first column is what payment number it is. Remember, usually you get what are called coupons, which are annual or semi-annual interest payments. Okay, so that's your first item, and there'll be a certain number. If it's a 5-year bond and you have semi-annual payments, that means you'd have 5 times 2 or 10 payment numbers. Okay. Next is your bond interest received. And remember, that's simply the face value of your bond multiplied by your bond rate. Okay, so that will be consistent all the way through, just like when we did amortization and we calculated the payment. Okay, it was the exact same every single time. The interest, okay, is done a little bit differently. Okay, so that is based on your book value of your bond. Okay, so based on your book value and calculating using the actual interest rate, you'll come up with an interest that's based on the market rate. Okay, so your bond rate might be 3% and your market rate might be 2.5%. Okay, so when you do your bond interest, you use the bond rate. When you do the interest on the market rate, you use what your market rate of interest is. Okay, the next column is the amount of premium or discount accumulated. Okay, and that would be the difference between your bond interest and the interest based on the market. Okay, so you then take this value and you subtract it or add it to the book value of the bond, depending on if it's a premium or a discount. Okay, because at the end, after all your payments, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way down, your book value at the end should be equal to what the face value of the bond is, okay? Because we're basically taking that premium or discount and amortizing it along all of the payments, okay? Your last column will just be that amount of premium. Remember from our previous slide, I had a premium of $50, okay? In the case of a premium, that would be decreasing until your remaining discount is 0 at the end, okay? And similarly, if you have a discount, it starts here, decreases, and it gets to a value of 0 here, okay? This seems confusing. I'll show you kind of why we're doing it in the next couple of examples. It's easier to see it with an actual example, but I wanted to show you this bond schedule because that's what we're going to start with as a basis when we do the schedules in the next question. So you will see this table pre-built into the slide. So let's look at our first example. A $1,000 bond with a bond rate of 6%, payable semi-annually, matures in 3 years. If the market rate is 5% per annum, compounded semi-annually, determine A, the purchase price, and B, construct a schedule of amortization of the premium. In other words, a bond schedule. Okay. So example or part A is the same that we did in the previous lesson. Okay, so we need to find the purchase price. So remember, the purchase price is equal to the face value of our bond divided by 1 plus the periodic interest rate to the exponent n. The reason I used the periodic interest rate, okay, is because your bond is payable semi-annually, your bond rate, and interest in the market is compounded semi-annually, okay? So it's an ordinary, or it's a simple annuity, okay? So after your face value divided by the interest rate, plus your payments. Remember, those are your interest payments, in this case semi-annually, multiplied by 1 minus 1 divided by 1 plus the periodic interest rate to the exponent n, okay, divided by the periodic interest rate. Remember, in this case, n is the total number of payments that you're going to receive, right? So bond interest payments. So starting with our sidebar on the right, okay, our bond rate is 6%, okay, which is equal to 0.06. Our face value, in this case, is $1,000. Our nominal interest rate, or the market rate, is equal to 5%, which is 0.05, converting to a decimal. Payments are semi-annual, so M is equal to 2, okay, in both cases, market rate and bond rate. So your periodic interest rate, I, is J divided by M, or 0.05 divided by 2, which gives you 0.025. Okay? Your payments in this case are equal to your face value, $1,000, multiplied by your bond rate divided by how many bond payments a year. So in this case, 0.06, and it's divided by 2 because you get 2 bond payments a year. So your payment is equal to $30. Your last item is your total number of bond interest payments, N. In this case, it's equal to 3 years multiplied by 2 payments a year, or 6. Okay? This is just to find the purchase price. You'll see how that fits into the bond schedule in part B. Substituting these values in, your purchase price is equal to your face value, 1,000, divided by 1 plus the periodic interest rate, 0.025 to the exponent 6, plus your payment, $30, multiplied by 1 minus 1 divided by 1 plus the periodic interest rate, 0.025 to the exponent 6, divided by the periodic interest rate, 0.025. Okay, again, this is using the market rate, right? Because we're trying to figure out your purchase price based on market conditions. So if you do both of these calculations, you end up with $862.30 for the first, plus $165.24. Oops, 24 cents. So your purchase price in this case is $1,027.54. Now that is what's known, okay, think about it in accounting terms, if any of you are taking accounting, as the book value, okay? That's how much it's worth at this period in time. So remember, from a couple slides ago, for creating a bond schedule, this was the example of a schedule that I gave you. So I've pre-populated this slide with it. I'm going to just explain, now that we have a set of numbers to go with, what will go into each column. Okay, so this schedule explains why your book value of your bond is higher, so $1,027.54, than the face value of the bond. Okay, in this case, $1,000. So starting with the first column, remember our total number of interest payments, N, is 6. So I've got 6 rows here, and we, again, I'll go through the first 2 rows, then we'll go to the next slide, and it has all of these numbers that you'll see for all of the interest payments. I'm not going to go through all of them. I feel like that's too long of a presentation for you. So after I go through the first 2, you'll see how the remainder of the solution plays out. So that's what the first column is. It's just the the interest payment numbers, so 1 to 6. Okay. The second column is your bond interest received. So remember, our bond interest was simply our bond payments, which was $30 semi-annually. So every item in this column is $30. This is the same as when we did amortization schedules for mortgages. You could consider that column to be your mortgage payment, okay, whether it was monthly or bi-weekly. The next column is the interest based on the market rate. Okay, so remember, our market rate was our periodic interest rate, which was 2.5% or 0.025, right? Because remember, that periodic interest rate accounted for the fact that it was semi-annual. So our interest is calculated on the book value of the bond. Remember, this book value was calculated using the market interest rate, right? That was how we calculated the purchase price back in our previous slide. So looking at the first payment number as an example, our interest would be 0.025 multiplied by our book value of the bond, so $1,027.54. And we arrive at $25.69. Okay, so what you see is that our bond interest of $30 is higher than the interest we would have received on the market for that same book value of money, $25.69. Okay, so that difference between those two is the amount, in this case, of our premium that is accumulating over the course of our interest payments. So the next column, the amount of, in this case, premium accumulated, is simply the difference between the bond interest received and the interest based on the market rate. So $30 minus $25.69 arrives at $4.31. Okay? So that's the premium that we've currently accumulated. So since we've been paid out that interest, our book value of our bond will decrease by that amount, right? Because it's no longer worth as much, because we've already received that first bond payment with the additional interest. So our book value is now $1,027.54 minus, okay, that premium, so $4.31. And we arrive at $1,023.23. Okay? As we get to the end, you'll notice that our final one should finish at the face value of the bond, okay? Because by the time it comes to maturity, this bond isn't worth any more than the initial $1,000 because we've already made that extra money in terms of bond interest payments. Okay, all those additional payments have already come to us. Our last column is our remaining premium, in this case premium, not discount. You'll see in the second example of a discount. So the premium we paid is simply the book value, $1,027.54 at the start, minus the face value of the bond. So in this case, it's $27.54. Again, that's at the very start. So that's the extra amount of money we paid to receive this bond. In other words, the premium. So the amount remaining is simply the amount we started with for a premium. Okay, so I'm going to erase a little bit of, make a little bit of space here. Okay, just give me a second. So our amount of premium remaining is simply $27.54 minus the amount we've currently accumulated in this payment, $4.31, and we arrive at $23.23. In this case, that makes sense. You see, there's $23.23 extra on the book value, and the remaining premium is the same, $23.23. Okay, so that makes sense in this, right? Because we want the book value at the very end should be equal to our face value of $1,000. So if we look at our second interest payment number, okay, we're going to do the calculations the same way. Okay, so you're going to see that it's starting to look similar to an amortization schedule. So our interest based on the market rate is simply 0.025 multiplied by our current book value, $1,023.23, again, because it was reduced after our first interest payment. And that arrives at $25.58. So again, you can see how the interest goes down slightly, and that makes sense because our book value is decreasing. So in the second payment, our premium that we've accumulated is simply the difference, $30 minus $25.58, and we arrive at $4.42. Okay, so our book value of our bond is $1,023.23 minus this amount of premium that we accumulated this payment, $4.42. And we arrive at $1,018.81. Okay? So our remaining premium in this case is simply $23.23 minus the $4.42 we've accumulated this payment. So we arrive at $18.81. Okay? So again, as you can see, the remaining premium is tracking the value of the book bond, or the book value of the bond. Okay? So again, I'm showing you these first two. I'm not going to show you the remaining four in all those calculations. The big reason for that is just time to have you go through and watch me do all six. Okay? But what I am going to show you is on the next slide, I'm going to show you the solution typed out, which is available in your slide PDFs. And we're just going to talk about a few things in it. Okay? So this is the completed table. Okay, so what you can see here is the values that we've calculated already, the $25.69, $25.58, and each of these premiums. Okay, so we calculated all those, and what happens is as we have more bond interest payments received, our interest rate went down, and subsequently the amount of our premium that was amortized went up. Okay. Again, because just like when we did an amortization schedule for mortgages, these two values have to add up to our bond interest payment received. Okay? So it was the exact same as when we had a mortgage. Consider this to be your mortgage payment, this to be your interest, and this to be your principal. Okay? You can see it the exact same way. So as our interest decreased, our principal increased. Okay, so it's the exact same as those amortization schedules. It's just Instead, we're using terminology for bonds, okay? So some important things to note is when the bond comes to maturity, in this case, that premium is all gone, okay? So you can see after our final interest payment, there's no premium remaining, and our book value is the same as the face value of the bond. So as if we bought it at $1,000 and not on the market at a premium, okay? So just a few items to note when you see a bond schedule like this, okay? Again, just like we did with mortgages, this can also be easily done using Microsoft Excel, okay? Using the very same formulas that we used when we did an amortization schedule, okay? Okay, so let's look at a second example using a bond schedule. So a $10,000 bond redeemable at par in 4 years with 5.5% bond rate payable semi-annually is bought with a market rate of 7% per annum compounded semi-annually. So part A is what is the purchase price and corresponding discount. And part B, construct a schedule of amortization of the discount. In other words, a bond schedule. Okay? So a couple things to notice here. Bond rate is payable semi-annually, and the market rate is also semi-annual. So this is a simple annuity. And another thing to note is that the market rate is higher than the bond rate. So that means that this bond should sell at a discount. Okay, you can see that kind of in parts A and B, but just something for you to acutely kind of notice. Okay, so notice that the value we get in part A should be less than $10,000. Okay, so our purchase price is equal to our face value divided by 1 plus the periodic interest rate to the exponent n, plus our payment, in this case that's our bond interest payment, multiplied by 1 minus 1 divided by 1 plus the periodic interest rate to the exponent n, divided by the periodic interest rate. Okay? So looking at everything we know in this question, our face value is $10,000. Our bond rate is 5.5%, which converting to a decimal is 0.055. Our market rate, or a nominal rate of interest J, is 7%, which converting to a decimal is 0.07. For both the bond and the market rate, they're semi-annual, so our value for M is 2. So our periodic rate of interest, I, is J divided by M, or 0.07 divided by 2, which gives us 0.035. Our payments are simply our face value, $10,000, times our bond rate, which is 0.055, divided by 2, right? Because payments are semi-annual. And if you do that, you get $275. Lastly, our value for N, our total number of payment periods. The bond is for 4 years, and we have 2 payments a year. So we're going to have 8 bond interest payments per year. So substituting all of these values in, our purchase price is equal to our face value, 10,000, divided by 1 plus our periodic interest rate, 0.035, and this is to the exponent 8, okay, because we have 8 bond interest payments, plus our payment, $275, times 1 minus 1 divided by 1 plus our periodic interest rate, 0.035, to the exponent 8, divided by our periodic interest rate, 0.035. To calculate each of these out individually, we get $7,594.11 plus $1,890.34. So adding these up, we get $9,480. $484.45. So you see, this is trading at a discount, okay? So at the start of your bond, okay, it's not worth the full $10,000. But as you'll see is as we do the bond schedule, flipping it compared to what we did during the premium, our bond will increase in value, okay, as we get closer to our final bond interest payment. So looking at part B, again, I've made the same table in our question just to make it easier. I will go through the first two interest payments before I show you the final table. So you'll see some things that are a little bit different in this table. Okay, you'll just how the numbers kind of start tracking. All right. So again, our first column is the same. Our interest payment numbers. We have 8 interest payments. Remember, because n was 8. Our second column is our bond interest received. Okay, so remember that's our bond payment, which was $275. And I'll write them all in just so you can see it doesn't change. Okay, just like a mortgage payment doesn't change over that term. Your interest based on the market rate is again calculated the same way. Okay, so it's based on the book value of your bond, which remember the book value is the purchase price we just calculated, $9,484.45. Okay, so our interest is simply our periodic interest rate, 0.035, multiplied by that book value, $9,484.45. Okay, so if you calculate that out, you'll get $331.96. So what you'll notice is unlike in the premium, the interest based on the market rate is higher than the bond, and it should be, right? Because you can make more money in the market than you can in your bond. So what that means is you have to go the opposite direction. In other words, to find the amount of, in this case, discount accumulated, you take your interest, $331.96, minus the $275. And you arrive at $56.96. Okay? So that accounts for the fact that your bond, okay, is worth right now less than $10,000. Okay, so you need to add that to the book value each time. And the way to consider this is if your first interest payment's already paid out, okay, if someone wants to make more money in the market, that first, in this case, 6-month period, because it's semi-annual, is gone, right? They can't make that additional interest. So this bond becomes more attractive as it gets closer to maturity, right? Because you have less of a period of time where you're putting this money in a bond where you could make more money in the market. So your book value of your bond in this case, you have to add the discount to it. So your book value becomes $9,484.45 plus $56.96. Okay? And if you add those together, you get $9,541.41. Okay? Your last column, similarly, your remaining discount. Okay, it's done the same as it was previously. It's the difference between your face value, $10,000, minus what your book value was at the start, $9,484.45. Okay, so your discount in this case is $515.55 to start. Okay, but as you accumulate that discount, okay, which in other words was the difference between the interest and the bond, you subtract that off. Okay, so in this case, it becomes $515.55 minus $56.96 that you've accumulated. And if you do that, you get $458.59. Okay, so we're kind of working backwards here because we're starting with a discount instead of having a premium in our bond, okay? So in this case, our bond is just not worth as much as the face value, but it needs to be worth the face value by the time you get to your final interest payment number. So looking at the second interest payment number, again, I'm going to just erase this so that you can see what I'm doing. I know there isn't a lot of space on these slides, but that's just because of how large this table is. So in your second set of calculations, it's done the same way. Our interest is our periodic interest rate, 0.035, multiplied by our current book value. In this case, $9,541.41. If you calculate that out, you get $333.95. So you can see, opposite to the last example, your interest goes up, and subsequently the amount of discount you're accumulating will also go up. Okay? And that's because your bond becomes more attractive the further into the period it is, right? Because that person has more time to earn money using their money in the market before they decide to buy the bond. Okay? So the amount of discount that you've accumulated, all right, is the same, $333.95 minus $275. So in this case, it's $58.95. So your book value of your bond is $9,541.41. Remember, the previous book value plus that additional discount you've accumulated, so $58.95. And you arrive at $9,600.36. Okay? Your last is your remaining discount is just simply $458.59 minus the discount you've accumulated, $58.95. Okay? And if you do that, you get $399.64. Okay? So just, you can keep going, okay? And if you were to keep going, this would be what your full bond schedule would look like. So a couple things change, right? You started out at a lot lower book value, right? Because it was sold at a discount. So in this case, your book value increases until it gets to your face value. Okay? And a couple other things to notice, the amount of your discount that you've accumulated increases, right? Because in this case, as you go payment to payment, your book value is increasing, right? Because you have less of a period in time, so you're not going the full 4 years with this money invested at a lower interest rate. Okay? As you get closer and closer, it becomes a little bit more attractive. All right? So, I know that some of this item with bond schedules may seem to be a little bit confusing. It's just showing you kind of where these numbers come from, right? So when you see these items that, they're sold at a discount or sold at a premium, the numbers are actually rooted in this type of basic math calculations, okay? So there's, logic behind these changes, and these changes happen very quickly. So when you look at bond rates, okay, those market rates will change every single day, okay? So the last topic I want to talk about, and I just, was talking about the market rate when we looked at the bond schedule, is I've always provided you with that market rate, okay? But in practice, when bonds are on the market, that market rate isn't directly available. It's always shifting, okay? So what we need to do is we have to actually use the information that we have to approximate that market rate or approximate that periodic interest rate, okay? And there's a few calculations we can use for that, okay? In general, the approximate periodic interest rate is equal to the average income per interest payment interval, which I'm going to explain in a second, divided by your average book value. Okay? So the big reason you need to know the premium and the discounts in the bond schedule is because your average income per interest payment interval is equal to your total of your interest payments so far. Okay, so how much money you've made in interest payments, plus that premium or minus the discount, depending on if you've made or lost money at that period in time, divided by the total number of intervals. Okay, so how many payments have you received? Okay, so if you received 3 payments, your denominator in this case would be 3. Okay, your average book value is equal to, remember back, this is from your first math course, we did a weighted average. Okay, so it's equal to your quoted price plus your face value. Okay, so your quoted price is simply that purchase price number that you'd arrive at, okay, whether it's a premium or a discount, plus your face value, and then that's divided by 2, okay? So you're dividing it by 2 just to obtain a basic average, all right? So I'm going to go through just an example, and remember back to, it was the 3rd unit of your previous math course. We talked about ratios and proportions. Okay, so when you get a quoted price, you're going to get a number such as 103.5, okay, or 108 or 110, or it could be less than that, it could be 95, okay, it could be 92. And that means, okay, in this case of 103.5, it means it was purchased for 3.5% above face value. Okay, so face value is considered 100. And if you remember back to our ratios, remember our new number divided by our original number is equal to a percentage divided by 100. Okay, so consider this number to be your percentage. All right. So if I look at this question and I have a face value of $1,000 and it's selling for 103.5, we can figure out what our quoted price is. Okay, so our new number to our original number is equal to a percent to 100, just like we did in ratios. In this case, our new number is our quoted price. So our quoted price divided by our face value is equal to the percent. Okay, remember, ratios are always equivalent. So it's equal to our number, 103.5. In other words, the percent for the quoted price divided by the percent for the face value, okay, which is just 100, okay? So remember, face value, 100. So if I substitute the next value in, our face value is $1,000. So we have our quoted price divided by 1,000 is equal to 103.5 divided by 100. So if we want to get the quoted price on its own, we multiply both sides by 1,000. Okay, so those thousands will cancel. And in this case, our quoted price is $1,035. Okay, so that's how you can consider finding the market rate. It'll often be given with a number such as this. Okay, so such as 103.5. So that would find your quoted price. Okay, so let's look at an example using what we just went over here as review, ratios, and the 3 formulas that you saw in the previous slide. So let's look at the first of 2 examples of finding the market rate. A $25,000 bond with 7.5% per annum bond rate, payable semi-annually, matures in 10 years. It is purchased at 103.5. What is the approximate market rate? So I'm going to start by just writing the 3 formulas that we need to keep in mind. Okay, first is our periodic interest rate, and that's equal to our average income per interest payment interval. Sorry, these are long terms. There isn't really a way to shorten these names because they kind of are what they are. Divided by the average book value. Okay, so to find the items in the numerator and the denominator, okay, so our first formula, our average book value is equal to 1/2 times the quoted price plus the face value. Okay. Our numerator, the average income per interest payment interval. Okay. I'm going to call that X so I don't have to write it out. Okay. So to figure out what X is, okay, the average income per interest payment interval, that's equal to our total interest payments. In this case, we see that it's purchased at 103.5. Again, that's above the basic value for the face value, which is 100. So we know it's going to be a premium. And if it's a premium, you subtract the premium. Okay, again, we saw how to figure out what the premium of discount was when we did bond schedules. And that is divided by our number of payment intervals. Okay? So we can start by finding any one of these. Okay, I'm going to start with the average book value. Okay, so if you want to find the average book value, you need the quoted price and the face value. In this case, we know the face value, it's given in the question, but we don't know the quoted value. Remember back to ratios. Okay, so starting with that first item, okay, our new number to our original number is equal to percent divided by 100. In this case, our quoted price divided by the face value is equal to our percent, which is 103.5 divided by 100. Okay? Our face value we can also substitute in. So we have our quoted price divided by our face value is equal to 103.5 divided by 100. So I left a space because now we have to get quoted price on its own. And to do that, you multiply both sides by 25,000. 25,000s cancel on the left. And what we're left is our quoted price is equal to 103.5 divided by 100 times 25,000. If we do that, we get $25,875. So again, it's at a premium. So if we have our quoted price, we can easily then find our premium, which is equal to $25,875 minus 25,000, or 875. So we'll need that a little bit later. So with this information, we can now find our average book value. So our average book value, I'm going to substitute the values in. It's equal to 1/2 times our quoted price, $25,875, plus our face value, which is simply 25,000. And if you calculate that number out, you get $25,437.50. Okay, so that means we have the first of our two values we need to plug in to our interest rate formula. The second item that we need, I'm calling it X, is the average income per interest payment interval. Okay, that's the value in the numerator, okay, of this formula. And to do that, okay, the values that we need our total of our interest payments, our premium, and our number of payment intervals. Okay, so we already know our premium. We calculated it, $875. Our number of payment intervals is also an easy number to calculate. Okay, it's the same as the value of n. Okay, so in this case, it's a 10-year bond, and payments are semi-annual. So 10 times 2 is equal to 20. So we know our number of payment intervals is 20. And our total of our all of our interest payments can also be calculated. So our interest payment is equal to 25,000 multiplied by our bond rate, 7.5%, which 7.5% is equal to 0.075. You convert to a decimal. So it's 0.075 divided by 2, right? Because the payments are semi-annual. So if you calculate that number out, okay, our payments are equal to $937.50. So our total of our interest payments would just be the amount of money we're making over the whole bond, which we make $937.50, and we're paid that 20 times, right? For 10 years times twice a year. So you multiply that by 20, and we get $18,750. Okay, so now we have all of the values we need, okay, to calculate this value, which I'm calling x. So I will move to the next slide, and we can substitute these values in. So calculating this value, I'm going to call it x, okay, is our total interest payments, $18,750, minus the premium, $875, divided by our total number of interest periods, which is 20. Okay. If you calculate that out, you get $893.75. Okay. So now we have all of our variables to calculate our periodic interest rate I. Okay. Remember, that's equal to our average income per interest payment interval which I've called X, because you can see writing it out every time takes up almost the entire slide, divided by, in this case, our average book value. So if I substitute these values in, our average income is $893.75, and it's divided by our average book value. Okay, remember we calculated our average book value of $25,437.50. Okay, if we calculate that out, we get 0.035135. Remember, that's our periodic interest rate. If you want the market rate, remember it has to be a nominal rate. So we have to multiply that, okay, by how often, okay, in this case they're paid, which is semi-annual. So you multiply that by 2, and you get 0.07027. It's actually a repeating decimal that keeps going. Converting that to a percentage times 100% gives us 7.027, and I put a bar here because if you do it in your calculator, you'll see it's a repeating decimal. That basically just means our market rate is actually 7%, okay? Which makes sense, right? Because remember, it's sold at a premium, 103.5, so it should be lower than our bond interest rate, okay? So I'm going to show you one more example. I know that was a lot of terms that we went through, okay? But again, keep that slide with you that has those formulas, okay? I'm using that short form of x for that one term, and again, that's just to shorten it up and make it look a little cleaner on these slides. So our last example, an $8,000 bond with 6% per annum bond rate, payable semi-annually, matures 17 years from now. It was purchased at 93.375. What is the approximate market rate? Okay, I'm going to start by writing all of our formulas once again. I is equal to, remember, this is the average income per interest payment interval, which I'm calling X, okay, just to save space, divided by the average book value, okay? The average book value is equal to 1/2 times the quoted price plus the face value. And our value for X, okay, again, I'm calling it X, it's the average income per interest payment interval, is the total of our interest payments in this case plus the discount. And the reason I know it's a discount is because simply this value is 93.375. It's less than 100, okay? And that's divided by the number of payment intervals, okay? So we can start again by the average book value. So the first item we need to find is the quoted price. So again, I'm going to put this off to the side. I will do everything for the average book value in green and everything for X, which is the average income per interest payment interval, in blue. So the average book value, first we need quoted price. So remember, we start with new divided by original is equal to percent divided by 100. In this case, our new number is our quoted price, divided by our original number is our face value, in this case, $8,000. And that's equal to a percent, 93.375, divided by 100. So to solve for the quoted price, I'm going to multiply both sides by 8,000. So on the left, the 8,000s will cancel. And our quoted price is equal to 93.375 divided by 100 times 8,000, or in other words, the face value of the bond. And you arrive at $7,470. So our average book value can now be calculated. Our average book value is equal to, remember, 1/2 times our quoted price, $7,470, plus our face value. Okay? If you calculate that out, you get an average book value of $7,735. Okay? So that's our final, okay, calculation for average book value. So again, I did that in green. I will do everything for our value of X, all right, in blue. So remember, our value of X is equal to our total of interest payments plus our discount divided by our number of payment intervals. Okay, so first, we'll do our number of payment intervals, and that's easy. Okay, 17 years times 2 payments a year gives us 34. Our discount is also a quick one to calculate. Okay, our discount is simply our book value, 8,000, minus what we calculated, whoops, sorry, not this value, what we calculated here, our quoted price, right? $7,470. And we arrive at a discount of $530. So our last item to calculate is our total of our interest payments. So our payments are simply 8,000 multiplied by our bond rate, which is 6%. Remember, 0.06, if you convert that to a decimal, 0.06. And that is divided by 2, right? Because we are paying semi-annually. So if you calculate that out, you get a payment of $240. So our total for that would have to be $240, and we're paid it 34 times, right? Over the entirety of this bond term. So that gives $8,160. So our value for X, remember the average income per interest payment interval, is equal to our total interest payments, $8,160. In this case, plus our discount. So our discount is $530. And that's divided by 34 payments, right? Because we have 34 payments a year. And if you calculate that out, you get $255, 255.59. Okay, so now we can solve for our periodic interest rate because we know both the value of the numerator and the denominator. So for this, I'll switch back to red. Okay, so our value for I is equal to our average income per interest payment interval. Again, that's our value of X hanging out here, $255.59, divided by our average book value. Remember, we calculated that at the start, $7,735. Sorry. Okay, and if we calculate that, we get 0.03304. Okay, so again, you have to convert that to a nominal interest rate. So you times that by 2. Okay, and our value for I in this case is 0.06609 or 6.61%. Okay, and that, in other words, that's our market interest rate. Okay. Again, looking at this, our market rate is higher than our bond rate of 6%, and that makes sense, right? Because it was purchased at a discount. Okay. So that's it. That is our last lesson for this unit and our last lesson for this course. So thank you for listening to all my lessons. I hope you found them informative. Obviously, you know, I do enjoy and I prefer teaching you in person, but I'm hoping that these lessons helped kind of bridge that gap in these video lessons and that you all understood them as best you can. Per usual, if you have any questions, please send me an email. I'll do my best to answer them. So thank you, everybody.